Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Welcome back to the City University, the Graduate School of Public Health and Health Policies webinar series for the fall of 2023-2024. It gives me great pleasure and honor today to bring in exciting conversation around Black men and mental health. For those that I don't know, my name is Deborah Levine. I am your Community Engagement Officer, and it gives me a real honor and privilege to partner today through the Harlem Health Initiative and Harlem Strong to bring you this most critical, important conversation. You're not going to hear much from me today because it is my role to decrease as I put forward these really very talented and very brilliant young men who have been working in the field of mental health, and in particular, mental health and men of color. So I really want you to have an opportunity to ask questions, to hear from them, to start this conversation. Please note that this conversation is being recorded and that we will share the recording after we finish, as we normally do. And of course, there will always be a survey to help us gauge the work that we're doing. Once again, I'd like to thank Priya for helping us organize this activity today. And most of all, want to kick off the conversation. Survival Mode, starting the conversation on Black men and mental health. We have with us today Pervis Taylor III. Wave, Pervis, so let folks know you're here. And up, we've got Dr. Maurice Franklin waving your book in the corner. And our second speaker joining us today is Jason Phillips, who's an LCSW and is also in a doctoral program. So we're super excited to have leaders in our community talk about Black men in mental health. And for those that know, mental health is critical, and we're super excited to launch this conversation. We'll start today with a poll, as usual, because we need to know where folks are at. So if you would take a few minutes and tell us what brings you here today. Are you a student? Are you a public health professional coming from a community-based organization? Are our faith-based organizations in the house, our community members, community educators, teachers, professors, faculty, or just folks who wanted to know more about this conversation? So if you take a few minutes and let us know where we are in the scheme of things, we will move the agenda. We'll give it another 10 seconds if you all would help us out. Okay, Priya, we'll take a click. And so it looks like the majority of our folks here are health professionals. We've got good representation from our community-based organizations. Thank you to our faith communities for showing up and showing out. We have some community members and community educators. So you all have the best of our community showing up today in this conversation. So without further ado, I will turn the floor over to Pervis to get us started in this conversation. Please also note that you are able to drop questions in the question and answer tab, which is located at the bottom of your screen. And please feel free to also include any conversations that you may want to have in the chat function also, but we're taking questions in the Q&A section. Thank you. So before we get started, we will start with an icebreaker. And this is our word cloud. And today's question is, how would you describe your outlook on your mental health? And so if you can click the link that's in the chat and put 1 to 3 words to describe that. Or if you're not able to enable your chat function, we will be happy to drop those words in for you. So if you could take a moment to just click the link. One to 3 words. We'll give you 10 more seconds. So here's what we've got.
Okay. Not bad. Not bad.
All right, Pervis, it's on you. I'm decreasing so that the conversation can definitely be uplifted. Thank you.
Awesome. Deborah, thank you so much for having Jason and I to have this important conversation. I'm really excited to be here with you all. Good afternoon. I am Pervis Taylor III. I am author of the book Surthrival Mode. It's a book that I wrote on Black men's mental health. And my colleague, Mr. Jason Phillips, is going to take it over and start this conversation.
Yeah, thank you all for being here, for yourselves. Thank you for having me. Very excited to have this conversation and talk about the inner workings of Surthrival Mode. So Purvis, if we can start out, I want to ask you, what inspired Surthrival Mode?
You know, I was at a point in my life where I was being so introspective about my life's experience and, thinking about the pain that I went through as a young man growing up. I experienced things like, molestation and bullying at school and, having a father, die of a heroin overdose. And I just experienced so many things. And as I began my healing journey, I recognized that, healing is not selfish, it's selfless. And so I wanted to, write a book to help Black men because I am a Black man. I didn't want any Black man to go through what I went through. And I recognize, throughout this, mental health journey that everyone is not going to be able to go see a therapist. And so I wanted to provide something that can help them navigate through life successfully, right? And make a book that is short and succinct so no one can have no excuse for not reading it. So I wanted to make something that's clinical in scope, but practical in its execution.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I know we're going to get into the nuts of the 4As, but how did you come up with the concept of the 4As?
When I was writing the book, I wanted to take, Black men from surviving to thriving, right? Because I wanted us to be able to thrive and flourish and, be whole and, live our full humanity. And as I was writing the book, I started out with acknowledgement, and then the next one was acceptance. Then I was like, okay, I'm starting to see a trend here. So then I was like, you do need to speak. You need to be able to articulate. And I was like, okay, then there's articulation. Then the last one, alchemy, I was like, I was like, how do you transform all these experiences that we've been through and use it for our good? And so alchemy just popped up. And I happened to, at the time, had a program called Alchemic Solutions that partnered with the CUNY system that was teaching young Black men how to cultivate emotional intelligence. So then that was, you know what I mean? That was the obvious last A.
Yeah, man. No, it's dope. It's dope. So let's go ahead and jump right in.
Let's get into it, brother.
So with acknowledgement, how important would you say it is for individuals, particularly Black men, to acknowledge where they're at in their mental health status?
In the book, I talk about Alcoholics Anonymous, which is like the most successful recovery program there is. And part of the success is every meeting, they have to acknowledge that I'm an alcoholic. So I recognize that there was power in just acknowledging where you are and being able to pinpoint what is exactly, is going wrong in your lives. And I think a lot of times, throughout the mental health journey, and this as a therapist, a lot of times people can't really articulate or acknowledge or even, you know what I mean, to know what is actually wrong. Right. And so I just wanted to start out the book by saying, like, acknowledging that you are hurt, acknowledging that you are in pain. Right. And that was the beginning of it for me.
Yeah, I have a similar format that I work through with my clients where we go through acknowledgement, accountability, and action. So when I saw you starting off with acknowledgement, I thought, man, Pervis he's spot on. And then there's some things that if we don't acknowledge it, it can seem like we're still in denial. Would you agree, disagree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's like just the first step, you know what I mean? Like, just like, yo, something's not working, I'm not happy, or I don't feel good. Like, I think that is the beginning of it, the healing journey. Absolutely.
Can you give any example, like in practice, where you work with someone and that acknowledgement alone was a huge part of their healing journey?
It's funny. I worked with a young man who had been in therapy for years. And I just started asking him questions. And he finally revealed to me, he was like, you know what, Pervis, I've been in therapy for like a few years and I've never acknowledged that I was molested as a child. And I was like, brother, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, okay, like this is, now we're getting somewhere. You know what I'm saying? He was able to acknowledge that one specific thing, and it really shifted the trajectory of our sessions, and it shifted the trajectory of his life just through that one acknowledgement of his molestation. Like, that really took us into a different direction, and we did a deep dive, and now he's doing well today. So yeah.
But it's so hard though, too, because, I've seen this in my practice as well, where I was working with the young man and we were about 5 or 6 sessions in, and he just kept telling everybody I'm good. Or he kept telling me I'm good. My family's good. And it was into that 6th session where he said, he opened up about his sexual trauma.
Yeah.
So that acknowledgement, you have to have space for that.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of courage and bravery. Because I think as men, we have a code and an honor to ourselves. And so, like, we can't break that vibe. We can't break that code. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's almost counterintuitive to the tropes that we have in masculinity, to acknowledge that we're broken, to acknowledge that we're hurting. You know what I'm saying?
What would you say would be some of the cultural or societal factors that prevent us from acknowledging?
Well, I think about, like, just the definition of, manhood. You hear women say, I like the strong and silent type, right? Strong and silent, but it's the silence that's killing us. Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, we're told, that's what to be a man is like, we're not supposed to, engage in our emotions or engage in any other thing than provide to, to be performative. And so, like, that is definitely one example.
So it seems like sometimes society can reinforce it for us to stay silent, stay quote unquote strong. And that's how we can evaluate or assess how we're doing in our manhood.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Yeah, the acknowledgement is deep. So I want to move us forward to acceptance.
Oh,
What did acceptance look like for you?
Acceptance it was the end of my suffering. It was the end of my suffering, and it was also the beginning of my power.
Mm.
You know, when you think about even the grief process, acceptance is the last stage, right? Because that's the end of the suffering over the grief. And so for me, acceptance was the end of the rumination, the end of the torment. It was the end of just that inner turmoil. And for me, that was the place of power where I really started to become in tune with my voice and really to accept who I was and embrace all the iterations of who I am as a man. And that, you know, led to, you know, authenticity, and that led to really me being on this healing journey.
I think at times we can confuse acceptance with responsibility and make it feel like it's my fault if I have to
And
accept
condoning, right, right. We often confuse acceptance with condoning, and then they're not the same thing. Acceptance is just basically saying, like, this happened. I have
something.
to accept that this happened. I didn't agree with it, but it
Right.
happened. And now I have to do something about it.
Yeah. And I think that can sometimes put us on the defense of not wanting to go into acceptance, because it's like, well, I didn't cause this,
Yeah.
but now I have to acknowledge it and then move towards accepting it. And a lot of brothers, we don't want to do that.
Yeah. I mean, like, we don't recognize how powerful acceptance is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I absolutely gained my power and I became Pervis Taylor III that you see today because I accepted what I experienced in my life. And again, it was counterintuitive to what I thought masculinity was, because it made me feel like I was a victim, right?
Yeah.
But not realizing that I was actually becoming empowered through accepting what happened. And that was the only way I could make a difference. That was the only way that I could shift.
Man, Pervis. Yeah, you hit on a very important word when you said, like, not feeling like you're a victim and not taking on the victim mentality or a victim identity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's critical. So you familiar, acceptance is now a whole treatment modality, acceptance and
Yes.
commitment therapy act, right?
Yes.
That's how the powers that be have recognized that acceptance is so powerful that we're going to have a whole intervention around acceptance.
Because it is the end of your suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And people just do not understand that. And that's why I wrote this book, because I want brothers to recognize, like, yo, I want the suffering to end within you. So accept what happened, accept where you are. That's your launching pad to shift.
If somebody's wrestling with acceptance, so let's say I have a client and he's acknowledged, but the acceptance part they're struggling with. What are some of the ways that you help move them towards acceptance, and they can still feel safe in the process?
Well, I think one of the things I often ask is, like, well, you know the trajectory you've been on, you know what that journey has been, right? What if there is another side to it?
Give them an option.
So that's what it was for me. I was like, Purvis, I've only known life through the lens of victimization, through the lens of, like, replaying the hurt over and over again, right? And I've acknowledged it, right? But I asked myself a question. I said, Purvis, there has to be another side to this. I said, what if you accept this, right? And stop fighting it? What could happen? And I took a chance. I was vulnerable enough to take that chance. And I recognized that it opened up a whole nother side, a whole nother experience of life that I didn't know existed. And so, like, that's the question I asked. Like, you know this side, but what if there's another side? Like, what do you want for your life what do you want your life to be? You know what I mean? Asking questions like that. I'm so sorry.
No, you good. You hit on so many things I want to touch on. Going back to grief, right?
Yes.
You've lost both your parents. I've
Yes.
lost both my parents. So that's something that we unfortunately have in common, right?
Yes.
And we
Yes, sir.
talked about it. And
Yes.
you mentioned in the stages of grief how acceptance, can be at the last part.
Yeah.
When you get to acceptance, would you say that this is something where you're permanently there, or you can kind of go in and out of acceptance at times, depending on where you're at?
I think it's kind of like forgiveness in a sense. Like, you know how, like, I tell people forgiveness because the ness on the end means process. So that means you don't have to forgive again. right? And so acceptance is kind of like that. You do have to remind yourself, like, yo, no, I've accepted this, because that stuff does creep back in, right? And those old feelings, those old emotions can arise, right? But then you have to tell yourself, you know what? I've accepted that this is what it is. And now, you know what I mean? Let me get back on the journey.
And I think that's important to say, because sometimes we can feel like, well, I thought I was past that. Why is this showing up for me again?
This is a journey. This
Mm-hmm.
is a journey, not a destination. It is a journey. And so as you journey along, you have to remind yourself of the things that you've worked through already. Because those things will show back up, but you have to engage in that process. And that's why I created the 4 A's, because you're going to have to do it again.
If somebody doesn't know, like if they're like, I don't know if I've accepted or not, what would you say is an indicator that they have accepted what they've been through, what's happened to them? What would be a way they can recognize it?
If you don't feel disempowered around the situation, that is a key indicator. Do you feel like you can face life? Do you feel like you are prepared for the journey? Do you still have the vision in your heart that you want for your life? And do you feel that you can attain it?
Not perfect. You can't just put that out there and think I'm not going to ask you to unpack that. When you say disempowered around the situation,
Yeah.
can you break that down?
Well, just feeling helpless within the situation, or feeling like just out of control and not like you. Like, for instance, for me being molested, I do not feel disempowered. I feel like that's an experience that I had, but it's not my identity. You understand?
Yeah.
So the experience is not a part of your identity, but it's just an experience that you went through. That's a place of knowing.
I think that's so important to articulate as we get to articulation, but
Yes.
seriously, because the trauma can, if we're not careful, it can become our identity. And
Absolutely.
we can live our lives through the lens of what happened to us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing I drive home. That's something that you experience, but it's not your identity. And one of the things I always say is that, life happens to you, but life happens from you. And so one of the things that I recognize is that when I think about the life happening to me, I become victimized. But when I think about the life that could come from me or has come from me, I become more empowered.
Yeah. Perspective is key.
Perspective is key.
So let's move towards articulation.
Yes.
How did this section of the book come about?
I was doing some research. I was in grad school at Columbia University. Shout out to Columbia University. And I come across this data where it says that men speak like 10,000 words a day and women speak like 30,000 words a day. And I recognize that your healing is in your words and that therapy is an exchange of words, right? And so the more that you're able to contextualize and conceptualize your experience, the greater your healing will be. And so I recognize that a lot of brothers just didn't know how to articulate where they are. And which is why I do the work that I do, especially around framing language, developing an emotional lexicon is so essential, because a lot of times brothers say, I feel away. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means.
Right, we gotta guess. We gotta guess what that feeling is.
Yeah, let's tease it down. Let's tease it down. And so I wanted brothers to be able to articulate and contextualize their experience, because it's so important, so that you can get the help that you need.
Now, we're talking about Black male mental health. Have you noticed the difference when you're working with women and men around how they articulate? Like, I know you said what the numbers say, 10,000 words versus 30,000, but have you seen it in your practice too, a difference?
Absolutely. Like one of the things I do with my male clients is I have them use sensory language, right? So if they don't have the emotional lexicon, I'll say, well, tell me what it feels like. Describe it to me. You know what I mean? So if you can say, it feels like I got hit by a Mack truck. Okay, cool. I can work with that. Okay. So now we're working with something. All right, let's add more language to it if we can. With women, my female clients, it's easy. It's like the comma, you know what I mean?
Right.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like with brothers, it's like I have to kind of coach them around using sensory language, because I know that they're not going to be able to, say I'm perturbed, right? And I
Yeah.
don't want to, and I want to paint that with a blanket statement, but just some
I, kn-
brothers have an emotional lexicon.
yeah, I've seen that too, where it's like with some of our female clients, we could go hours and hours
Yeah.
because there's so much that they want to express and they know how to express it. But with the male clients, the brothers, sometimes it can be like pulling teeth, or we are, looking at the feelings chart and helping them to
Yes.
identify other feelings and outside of I don't know, or as you said, I feel away.
Yeah, it's funny. You have the feelings chart. I have feelings in a jar. And
Mm-hmm.
so like, some exercise that I do when I'm doing the program, emotional intelligence program, I'll give them a complex emotional word and have them act it out in a charades type of way and see if they can identify what the emotion is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want them to be able to expand their emotional vocabulary.
How does that usually go when you do that?
It's fun. At first, brothers ain't trying to
Yeah.
charades. Ain't no brother trying to do charades. And then
Right.
once I coax them into it, it becomes a fun experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell that and then afterwards I can tell that they've integrated it into their lives.
Yeah. Man, articulation cannot be under estimated or underappreciated because you may have heard that saying, you can't heal what you don't reveal.
Absolutely.
But if you don't know how to reveal it or how to put language around it, then you're just gonna feel stuck.
Yeah. And again, only what if you don't confess, it remains a mess, right? That's like
Mm.
the
I like that. I like
what you don't confess remains a mess. And listen, the power of a secret isn't keeping it. It's not the secret itself, right?
mm.
Because there's nothing new under the sun. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's not, a brother may have been molested. I've been molested, but his molestation experience may be different than mine. But nonetheless, we both been molested. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Being able to empathize with others, to bond with others, to heal in community. If you don't open up and articulate where you've been or what you've been
Mhm.
through or where
Mhm.
you're at, then
Mhm.
you might feel like you're just out there by yourself.
Right. And there's no connection, right? And then
Yeah.
then you're siloed. And then
Right.
when you're siloed, the only voice you can hear is your own.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So yeah, I can see where articulation is critical.
Absolutely.
Uh, Now next is alchemy. Can you break that down for us?
So alchemy, when you think about alchemy is taking lead and turning it into gold, right? That's really what alchemy is. And so I think about the experiences that I've been through, the pain,
Mhm.
all the stuff, the homelessness, the depression, the suicide ideation, all the things that I've experienced and had to navigate through. And I asked myself, I said, Pervis, how do you like, what are you going to do with this? Because I don't believe nothing is wasted in our lives. And what I did was I said, all these things that I've experienced, they made me stronger. I recognized perspective, right? I reframed it. And I
Mhm.
said, these things, if I hadn't gone through these things, I wouldn't be as sensitive to the plight of others. I wouldn't be as loving. I wouldn't be as compassionate as I was. And so I said, like, how do we take the things that we went through and turn it into gold? And so I took the pain, that's my ministry. This is the work that I do. I've alchemized my pain. And that's why I do the work that I do.
I
So that
think
I can transform it. You know what I'm saying?
it takes me back to that conversation we had when I was up there a couple weeks ago about you say, yeah, I am sensitive, but this helps
Yes,
me do the work that I do at the level that I can do it.
absolutely. And it is so empowering to say, like, yo, I've been through all these things, but look at me today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm still on this healing journey like the rest of these brothers out here. But I've navigated through a lot of tough terrain. You know what I'm saying? And so that is such a powerful experience where now I've learned to master the things that have once mastered me.
Mm. When you working with brothers, do you help them or advise them to go through the 4 A's in this order, or is it how it comes and you go from there?
Yeah. I try to, I try to take it through that systematic approach, but wherever they are is wherever they are. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like I just wanted to give a framework for those brothers who may not get a chance to work with me or work with you. And the book is
Yeah.
all they have. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, when I'm in sessions, I definitely try to use that as the framework.
Man, if you are, I mean, of course, you know, I got the book and I'm a
Yeah.
fan, but we definitely want to encourage brothers. Yes. I see Dr. Maurice Franklin's like, hey, he got his copy.
Yeah. Shout out to Dr. Maurice. Yeah.
Man, thank you. Thank you, Pervis. So I know now we're going to talk about tools and strategies to navigate mental health.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Yes. Yes.
do we want to how do we what are some, because I know we got a whole list of different
We
things
came
we
up with it.
can
We
do.
came up with a whole list. You could start out with some and then I could, yeah.
I mean, I think there's so many.
Yeah.
So the first is really yours, the wellness toolkit.
Yeah. So one of the things I developed, even with organizations, is developing a wellness toolkit where you kind of, it's a toolkit where it starts out with what does good feel like? Where you write
Mhm.
emotionally, what does good or what does a good day for you feel like? What does it comprise of? Like really being specific about it, right? So that you can really be in tune with you. Because really a part of mental health is being in tune with ourselves, right? You know, when you think about emotional intelligence, the basis of it is awareness. And so I want you to be aware of like, what does good feel like for you? And then be able to identify your lifelines. And I call those people who really hold you accountable, people who you can be vulnerable, who are your safe spaces, and then developing an action plan should things arise, right? Also, part of the wellness toolkit is being able to identify your triggers, right?
Right, right.
Knowing what your triggers are, and then having an action plan. So part of those lifelines should be your therapist. And
Hmm.
coping things like things that you like to do for fun, you know what I mean, but just having it all together, just knowing being prepared, because as you know, Jason, like we have to be on the offense when it comes to our mental health and not the defense. So
Yeah.
that's the wellness toolkit.
It's dope. And I should have prefaced this by telling y'all we have 10 different strategies. So if you take a
Yes.
note, this is the time to really jot them down, because we want to give you things that you can start to do today to enhance your mental health and wellness. So that wellness toolkit is great. I'm a huge advocate of it because you want to be prepared. Like you don't want to have to think about your toolkit when you need it. You want to already have it. So when you need it, you can just grab it.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
second, this
Yeah,
yeah,
good. I'm sorry. I
you
was just going to add just one thing.
go ahead, go ahead.
Like life is about integration. So the things that we're telling you, we want you to, integrate it into your life. Like, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, we don't want you to stop. We want you to integrate. We want you to
Right.
flow and just incorporate it into your life. But go ahead, brother.
You good. The second one is exercise and diet. Like thinking about what you eat, eating well and moving your body, because those two things can be again really underestimated when it comes to how it improves our mental health. Like Pervis, I once worked with a psychiatrist. She would not prescribe medication, or her method was like, look, I want to make sure you're moving, you're eating healthy before I just say this is your script.
Absolutely. My psychiatrist friend is the same way.
Yeah,
Like the prescribing meds is like the last resort for them.
she was big on it because sometimes we will treat food as our therapy. And
Yeah.
when we do that, it don't be the right type of foods.
Not realizing that has an impact on us, right? If you eat a lot of sugar, that impacts the way you look.
Mhm.
As you eat a lot of carbs, that impacts. So yeah, eating what we eat is absolutely
Yeah.
important.
And again, I just want to express that like really we have to pay attention to what we're eating and why we're eating what we're eating. Are we eating certain foods so that we can feel better? Are
Yeah,
we using that like the comfort food is, and now we need that every day, or the alcohol, we need that shot at the end of the day just to feel like, all right, I can get through Tuesday. Like, okay, it's just Tuesday and you're already looking forward to that glass of wine. So pay attention to what you're putting into your body.
absolutely.
Yeah. The next one, mindfulness and meditation. Did you want to expand on that?
Yeah, mindfulness is awareness, right? It's a honed in intentional awareness of like what you're experiencing, um, and where you would like to be, right? So like being aware is like it's a heightened awareness and focusing on it, right? Focusing on like where you would like to be. We coupled mindfulness with breath work, right?
Right, right. Yep, we did.
Being able to breathe, that has such an impact on the body. It resets the body. Taking 10 deep cleansing breaths calibrates the body, right? And that
Mhm.
also helps us to manage our mental health better.
And what we're seeing now, at least we're seeing athletes really get
Yeah.
into different yoga, mindfulness. I was watching the game last night, and Deshaun Watson, the quarterback for Cleveland, they showed some pictures of him or video of him meditating before the game.
Mhm.
Now they still lost, but I think, you know what I'm saying, like at least he was trying to be intentional. You know, it was a close game about how he took care of his mental health, even in the midst of everything going on. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next is community. We cannot stress um community enough, right? Like you
Yeah.
have to pay attention to the people you have around you, people you need to spend more time with, people that you need to spend less time with. Because when you are going through things and you just want to enhance your mental wellness, you want to make sure you have people around you who support you. Some people may not want you to always feel better, because then it's like, well, what do? They feel like you leave me behind.
Right. Some people are accustomed to the broken you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
as you start to grow, they may not like that. But
Yeah.
it's to your benefit, y'all. So really pay attention to that. Can you give an example of how your community helped you, Pervis?
Oh man. I would say all of my friends were like, once I really like identified and once I was really able to articulate what I was experiencing, what I was going through, they were so supportive of me going to therapy. They were so supportive,
Mm,
you know, check-ins, like how are you doing?
yeah.
How you feeling? And then also too, as an extension of that, having, you know, we talked about community, but you know, one of the things I like to add to that is like, you know, lived experiences, right?
Yeah.
You know, I was part of groups, lived experience groups, people who kind of went through similar things as me. And that was so freeing to know that I wasn't the only one. Because I think a lot of times when we're going through pain, we're going through situations, we feel like we're the only one. And so those
Mhm.
lived experience groups, that community helped me to recognize that I wasn't in this by myself and that I wasn't the only person who was going through this. And so that was also freeing and helped me to navigate through this successfully.
Most definitely. Community is important. You don't think you're alone. When I first started out as a therapist, my first job was as a grief counselor. So I'm helping people heal from losses of losing their spouse, their parents, child. I hadn't lost anybody like that at that time.
Right.
So, but I remember when they would be in support groups, they would heal amongst hearing each other and how they were coping. So the next ones I want to go through kind of quickly so we can get to have time for Q&A. So pay attention to your spirituality. Have a big spirituality component in your healing journey. Saying no, setting boundaries. That's important. Saying no to others so you can say yes to yourself.
Yes.
Being
Yes.
honest. Like you can't heal what you don't reveal. So be honest, y'all. Self-care activities. You want to make sure you have activities that you can do so you're not, these weekends can get lonely. A lot of times the weekends are the worst times where at least us as clinicians, we're worried about our people.
Yeah.
But when you have things that I know like I had somebody earlier this morning, she said she went to a concert or somebody went on a camping trip. Like that lets me know, okay, you're getting out even on times where you could have all this empty space. We talked about lived experience groups, and then make sure you have the right therapist or coach. I do want to expand on that one real quick. Purvis,
Yeah.
can you talk about why it's important to have the right person for you?
It's so important because I think a lot of times we're already a little bit afraid going into the vulnerable space of therapy. And it's important to have someone who you can identify with, who you believe can understand and contextualize and understand the concept of your life and can and provide context to your experience. So it's important to have that connection with someone who actually sees you. I think
Mhm.
that is so important because I think a lot of times, you know, not all therapists are created equal, right?
No.
Like no
Right.
shade, no shade. And you just have to find the right one where you feel the most comfortable and where you can be transparent, where you can be honest, where you can be vulnerable. And so
Mhm.
like that is absolutely important.
Now I said I was gonna give you our 10. We do have a bonus though. And it's important for our Black males. We
Yes.
have to live in luxury.
Ab-
Perfect. You want to expand?
So one of the things I do with my clients is I want my clients to flourish, right? And I looked up the definition of flourish, and it says to grow luxuriantly. And I said, ooh, I said, oh my God, that's all the feels, to grow luxuriantly. And I said, it's a lot of brothers who I know, and mind you, I'm not talking about breaking the bank, but I'm talking about like keeping up, getting a haircut, getting a manicure, but getting facials, getting a massage, doing a spa day if you can afford, like doing things that cater to you. You know what I'm saying? Like treat
Yeah.
yourself. That is like a lot of brothers don't do that. And I'm not, and again, we're not talking about breaking the bank. Everybody's in different spaces, but you got to incorporate lux into your life. Life is meant to be enjoyed at some point. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we're going through, we're growing through, but there also should be some enjoyment.
My neighbor, he's older. He's probably about early 60s. We were driving and he saw me behind him. He said he gave me a call. He said, "Hey man, I'm going down to get my mani and my pedi. I just want to give you a shout." So it was so good for him. I didn't ask him where he was going. He just told me.
Because he
And
felt good about it.
he felt good. He was excited, right?
Yes.
He felt great. I could hear it in his voice. So, it was good to hear that we're breaking a lot of societal norms and just talking about how we're living and what we're doing to take care of ourselves.
Absolutely. We don't want men to be encumbered by the tropes of masculinity, right? Meaning that we can't be human and live at our full human expression and can't embrace the iterations of who we are as men. We're trying to break that so that men can be whole, right? And if we really, really are honest, right, with Black men in particular, we have some of the highest suicide rates.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
You,
And
you
it's
understand what I'm saying?
rising.
They're rising, they're rapidly rising. And you think about it, we're not a big chunk of the population. And so that means this is a 911. And so, like the message that you and I are talking about today, I want it to be spread so that brothers can be healed and we can be better men. We can be better brothers. We can be better. You know what I'm saying? We just be better human beings on this planet.
Yeah. And this is
So
great.
Jason and Pervis, we have some questions.
Okay.
And I want to thank you because this has sort of been like peeking into an intimate conversation and sort of getting these tidbits. But let me get to the questions. And so we have a question that's asking us, how do we begin the conversation that a man of color could potentially benefit from therapy? So how do we talk to our men about engaging in therapy? Who should have those conversations and how do we approach the subject?
Yeah.
Jay, you can go first.
Yeah, I'll start off. So, and if I give differing opinions from Pervis, it's not because I don't want to agree, but I want to give a different perspective to it. So I will say that one, make sure what you don't want to say is you need to talk to somebody. So do not come at a brother like that because he is going to be turned off.
Yep.
What I would say is, one, you can share your own experience because now it kind of like they can see that you're being vulnerable enough to talk about how therapy has helped you.
Yes.
And make sure when you do talk to them about how therapy could benefit, that you have time to have kind of like a pre-session with them. What I mean by that is if you feel like they have some things going on, ask them, hey, how you been feeling? I noticed you've been going through X, Y, Z. That's a lot. How are you managing that?
Yeah. Have you considered?
Have you considered? So make sure you have the time and kind of pay attention to your energy and space before you open up that conversation.
I agree with everything you said because you definitely don't want to approach it from a self-righteous place. You definitely don't want to approach it from a place of you need, you know what I mean? Like a pointing finger or a shaming way. I would definitely try to frame it in a more empowering way. Like what Jason just did, I noticed that you are, going through such and such, such and such. How are you dealing with that, man? Have you ever thought about, I just read this book. It's really helping me. What do you think about it? Do you mind reading it? You know what I mean? Like maybe you can start out with a book and then maybe, you know what I mean? See what the response is and then kind of progress the conversation to actually get to therapy.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have another question here. The question is, what does depression look like in men of color, or what are some of the first signs?
I'll say a couple things and then Jay, you can finish it. So I want to say this, like depression in Black men looks different than any other demographic. And so for us in depression, it's like, it's very tricky, right, Jason? Because it can look like success. It can look like a high achiever. Someone who's a high achiever could be depressed. It could be a brother who is drinking a lot or who is being sexually promiscuous. It just looks different in us. He can be withdrawn, like the typical symptoms of depression. But again, because it's so different, it shows up so differently in us, you have to just be really discerning and really keyed in on the person to be able to tell.
And to add to that, I would say it could look like somebody who they're present, but they're emotionally unavailable. So like, them, but you don't know what's going on with them. And maybe subconsciously they're keeping you at a distance. So they're drowning themselves in work. So they're working 50, 60 hours, moving up that corporate ladder, starting their own business. Or you find in relationships, they never let anybody get close to them, or they have a hard time settling. Those are some of the signs that we want to look for Black men.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm going to take the next question out of order because it sort of connects to the comments you just made. We have a question. How can we make a safe space for men of color to be authentic?
I think I'll say for me, in my experience, and then Jason go after me, if that's cool.
Yeah.
So for me, whenever I'm creating a space for Black men, I always start with my journey and the things that I've experienced and the things that I've gone through, because I think it's important to level the playing field. Because I think a lot of times when we think about mental health, we think about healing, I'm in a better position than you. Nah, we're in the same journey. I just happen to have more tools in my tool belt than you do. But I start out with my journey like I've been depressed. I've been through hell. I've been through these experiences. So I level the playing field immediately by sharing my story, sharing my narrative, because I want them to be able to recognize that I too am on the journey as well. And so when I do that, that creates a safe space and it disarms immediately. Because I think people need to recognize that you too have hurt. You too have gone through things. You too have been through pain. And I think that is a great way to create an environment for brothers.
And I would add, let's have these conversations more frequently.
Yes.
So again, barbershops, dinner tables, car rides, like that is another way to make it authentic, because we're having it more frequently, not just when we think there's a crisis going on or we think that somebody's struggling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so Dr. Franklin would like to know, is there a contextual correlation between the choice of absence of language and mental happiness?
I would say at times. I think at times the correlation that I think of when I think of brothers who I know personally in my life who may be going through things, they don't have the words to it to express what they're going through. So then it's hard for people around them to support them because they just don't know. Like, I'll have a conversation with my wife about something that a friend has said, and she's like, "What does that mean?" Like that I don't know what they're talking about. So as men, we have to kind of like decode a lot of these things to kind of elevate the conversation, because
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's not a lot of words being used. So I guess in response, yes, that is. Let me just be direct. Yes.
Yeah, because what that does is that leads to compartmentalization, which could beguile you into thinking that you are happy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, we compartmentalize and we keep it moving.
I don't just want to add this quickly. I think in some ways that's how men speak, but then it could be to our detriment, though. That's the problem.
Absolutely.
Got you.
Absolutely.
I have another question here for you. My depression comes from trying so hard to thrive professionally, but there are so many systems and people being overt about holding me back. Is it physical or mental exhaustion? Thoughts?
Um, I think that's frustration, right? Because I think in reading this statement, I feel like there's a sense of awareness in knowing that I do have value. And so I think that what you're dealing with is a sense of frustration and being seen. But the one thing I will offer is make sure in this process of you pursuing pursuing your profession, that you don't forget who you are, and every day you remind yourself of your value and remind yourself of that the right person will see you when it's the right time. You will make the connection and you will be ready. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense to that
Yeah.
person? Yeah.
And I would add community, because there's somebody else who's going through something, but reach out to somebody who you trust. If you don't have a therapist, you don't have a coach, talk about these things, because when
Yeah.
as men, we want to be successful, right? And if I'm not moving where I feel like I'm moving, it's going to impact me mentally. So I may call Pervis and talk to him about some things.
We do that all the time, actually.
Yeah, all the
So
time.
I have another question. And this is directed at you, Purvis. In your book,
Uh-huh.
Greatness and Value, you use the word compensation. Can you talk more about or delve more into the mask wearing that begins at a very young age? I Wear a Mask by Paul L. Dunbar. Can you speak more about the impact for Black men?
Well, I think at some point every Black man makes a decision to wear a mask in order to survive, right? Because we're told from young, like, Black, boys don't cry. That's feminine, that's gay to engage in your emotions or whatever, right? And so we all put on a mask just to make it through. And what the hard part of it is, and the challenging part of it is that we wear masks so long that we forget who we really are. And so because we've worn a mask for so long, the work and the time and the journey that it takes to get you back to who you really, really were is so great, and it creates a chasm within yourself. And so part of the work that Jason and I do is to help brothers to remove the mask so they can get acquainted with who they really are, their authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous. Jason, did you want to say something? Sorry.
No, Pervis dropped the mic on that.
Mic drop. We got it. Okay, so I have another one for you.
Okay.
Are you confident that men know this language, beginning with acceptance process and other words associated with therapy and healing?
No,
No.
unfortunately. So no, I don't. And that's problematic too, as a coach, and Purvis can probably attest to this, that sometimes people come to us because I had a parents come to me last week saying, I think my son would want to work with you more because you are a coach too. It just sounds better. So men healing, I think, is still associated with weak. Like, what are you healing from?
Yeah.
So these words, we have to break that down and really dissect the meaning of it, so we don't feel like, oh, I'm weak because of this, or going to therapy means something's wrong with me. So no, I'm not confident. But after these conversations, I'm more confident that we can change the narrative around it.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I kind of help to navigate through that is I say, what is the vision for your life? Like, where do you ultimately want to end up, and what does that feel like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? How are you going to feel? and say to them, in order to get there, in order to have that emotion, in order to be that person, it's going to take you to heal from da 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 da. And so like I frame it differently.
Okay, so now I have rapid questions because I know we're coming close to the end, but I think these two questions are really critical. So I'm sorry if we go over just a little bit, but I want to make sure that I get to all the live questions. And these two may take a bit, but the first one is, how do you address men crying, and how do you support men and the value of crying if you do?
So I'll tell a quick story. I was hired by this organization in DC to do a professional development, and they wanted to separate by gender. So I had the men first, and then I had the women second, and then I had them as a collective. And now these are some hardcore brothers. Like what they did, it was a CBO. What they did was they took people from the community in Southeast DC and they gave them jobs. And so it was a dope idea, a dope initiative. But these brothers were hardcore. And I remember coming in there, like all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and happy, and they just looking at me, mugging. And I just start my session, and I tell them about all the things that I went through. And I noticed this brother in the front, he was like trembling. And I was like, are you okay? And he just starts, almost like convulsing. And I said, I said, do I have permission to put my hand on your shoulder? He was like, yeah. And he starts crying. And I said, may I ask what you're crying about? He said, my mother died when I was 5 and I never cried about it. Mm. And that space, what I was dealing with was the 5-year-old boy. I was not dealing with the 32-year-old man who was right before me. And then after he started crying, the brother across from him started crying because he had found his grandmother in a crack-induced coma that morning. And he started crying. Then the other one started crying because he had injured his knee and he missed out on a scholarship and he felt like his life was over. And so what it was is all these hardcore brothers started crying in domino effect. And it was such a healing experience for them that when it was done, the session was over with, all those brothers hugged me so tight. I don't think they hugged anybody in their life like that. I didn't have any breath in my body afterwards. But I absolutely encourage men crying because crying is a release. Yeah. It's a release. So I absolutely advocate for crying in men, and it's absolutely masculine to cry.
Mm-hmm. Say that again, my brother.
It is absolutely masculine to cry.
I'll take that. Okay, one more. I know I said 2, but I can't help it. Considering the importance of early intervention, would you recommend your book for women who are raising young men and don't necessarily know how to start the conversation around mental health?
Absolutely. I've had several.
It's okay. You can share. We'll let you do that quick plug.
Yeah. No, I've had wives and I've had mothers. I had one woman, she emailed me, she said, I bought your book and I read it. And I was asking my husband questions out of your book. And he was like, yeah. She was like, the way he answered questions was exactly the way you wrote it in the book. And she was like, I had to apologize to him. And mothers have been like, oh my God, this has helped me in the way that I approach my son. This has helped me understand men a lot better. So absolutely, it's important for women. And also too, women have read the book and applied it to their lives, right? Because healing is not gender specific.
There you go. So we are just at 2 o'clock. If you all will hold on with us just a little bit longer so that we can just get through these quick takeaways, please.
Jay, you can go first.
Yeah. So we want to give you all some takeaways. One, emotions are not a sign of weakness. We've been talking about emotions this past hour, and as you can see, there's a whole array of emotions that we all feel.
Yes.
And it's not just anger and happiness. There's a lot of emotions, but it's not a sign of weakness.
At all. In fact, emotions are an indicator. They earmark your human experience and your human journey. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, emotions are human. And the next one is mental health is wealth. Jason says something that I think is so rich. He says prevention is better than treatment.
Yeah.
If you treasure your mental health, you don't have to engage in a lot of treatment.
Yeah.
So you have to prioritize your mental health. Your mental health is your wealth. I work with successful people who are millionaires. Jason works with people who are successful millionaires, and their mental health is not on point, and therefore they're not living a good life. So mental health is absolutely wealth.
And then last, number 3, healing is possible. Y'all, I know we're talking about some heavy topics: trauma, depression, anxiety, stress. All of these things can be challenging, suicide.
Yeah.
But the healing is possible. It's just kind of taking one faith and then having action and community around you. But we want to let you all know that even though you're going through things and it seems like it's bleak, you may be feeling like you want to give up. You don't know where to start. You feel overwhelmed. You're not sure if people are going to clown you for wanting to talk about what you've been through.
Yeah.
But the healing is possible. And Pervis and I, we're living proof of that.
Yeah. And it's a journey, right? And it's a journey. We heal for the rest of our lives. And I want to make sure that we say that as well. Like, we heal for the rest of our lives, but there is absolutely another side to the pain that you could be experiencing right now. Absolutely.
Jason, Pervis, thank you. So we want to finish out with a word cloud. If you all would click the link in the chat and give us 1 to 3 words on how you would describe your outlook on your mental health at the end of this. And we do realize and recognize that this was a very heavy conversation. We shared some topics that may have been triggering. So please take care of yourself and support yourself and give yourself an opportunity to sort of decompress as you are putting these words in. Go out and get some sunshine, some vitamin D. Absolutely. In this absolute beautiful day. As you are putting your 1 to 3 words in, I will do my closing. Pervis, Jason, I thank you. This was not our typical workshop. Usually it is very prescriptive. It is about research. It is about a process. It is about something very tangible. And mental health is not tangible in that sense. You can't hold it, but you can definitely feel it.
Yes.
I thank you. I would love to offer the opportunity for y'all to come back and for us to continue this conversation. I think based on what I'm seeing in the comment section here, we have a lot more to cover. And we would love to be able to, with the School of Public Health, create a safe space for us to continue not just talking to our community members, but also talking to our CBO staff about thoughts, ways in which we can engage our community members. So it looks like we have continuous being cautious, now hopeful. We have some optimism. We have some positivity. I see in the chat, we've got words like community. We've got words like vulnerable. We've got some other words here like support. So let me give you the closing words as we close out, Jason, Pervis, so that you can close us in your thoughts.
Yeah. I'll start and I'll turn it over to Pervis. One, I just want to say thank you all for being here this afternoon and, engaging in a difficult topic around Black male mental health. And if you're working on your confidence, do 3 things: know yourself, trust yourself, and believe in yourself. Thank you all.
That was awesome. Thank you all for being with us as well. my closing remark is what I said earlier. You know, life happens to us, but life also happens from us. And when you focus on the life happening to you, you become disempowered. But when you focus on the life happening from you, you become empowered. And know that life absolutely can happen from you and will happen for you if you make the decision to do so. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you all again. Please, if you have the opportunity, we'll be sending the slide deck out. We'll also be sending out the information, contact information for both Jason and Pervis. And of course, we want to wish you from the Harlem Health Initiative and Harlem Strong, light, love, and prosperity. Please be careful out there, folks. It is a time that we have to watch and be supportive of one another. So we have our closing poll. If you'd be so kind as to let us know how this webinar is going. You will hear from us shortly. We will have a whole webinar series that will be coming out this fall that are topics that you have given us that we are in the process of working out. So please feel free to fill out the closing poll and we will see you soon. Thank you, Pervis, Jason, for your time, your energy, and your talents. And thank you most of all for taking care of our most vulnerable, our Black men. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Definitely a pleasure.
Huge pleasure. Thank you.